Ken and Michael back for a shot of Business Central and a beer. It is the December month, and the holidays have passed for us. Did you have a good holiday, Ken?
I did. I'm still having good holidays.
Still having good holidays.
Yes.
New Year's is upon us. So.
Yeah, you got to just let it roll. Keep it rolling.
You do. Today we're drinking a lunar type of a beer.
Super lunary.
Super lunary, yeah. A heaven-sent beer. I would pronounce it Elysian Space Dust. I think Ken corrected me and said it's Elysian.
I just said that's how I would pronounce it.
That's how he would pronounce it.
I don't know if that's correct.
What does Elysian mean?
Of or relating to the characteristics of heaven or paradise.
Oh,
divine.
Nice. Yeah. I'll tell you what. This beer is divine in one way, is that it hides the 8.2% alcohol content in the beer.
Agreed.
Very well, yeah. So, like I said, we're drinking Elysian Space Dust, which is an IPA. Just a quick background. The Elysian Brewing Company is known for variety. It's brewed over 350 craft beers, has been opened on Capitol Hill in Washington since 1996. So, it's kind of a step out of our normal Chicago area brewing beers. We're going nationwide now.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's delicious. Although it's right in my wheelhouse, IPA.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that, for selecting
an IPA
this year,
No problem.
this month. But I think it's very good. And I was just looking at some of the reviews. But the first thing is obviously what you said, which is 8.2%. I would have guessed 6.
Yes.
Maybe 6.5 tops.
Does not taste like a heavy alcohol.
It's very
beer.
good. It's smooth. But I go in and I was looking at some of the ratings on it on Beer Advocate, like I like to do, and the average is over 4.09 out of 5, which is a relatively high ranking compared to some of the other ones that we've looked at. But some of these are just hysterical. This person obviously is not a fan of the beer. And he starts with, or she starts with, I'm not sure.
What's the rating, though?
1.59.
Oh.
Not 1.5. Not 1.59. I don't want to sit here and rag on a beer for 45 minutes, so I'm going to try to make this quick. And then 45 minutes later, they wrap up. And we're not a big fan. Even after it was in the fridge for a long time, it didn't taste cold to them.
Yeah. I mean, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Maybe you gotta check the fridge.
Maybe you have a bias against this beer for some reason. Cold is cold, is it not?
Yeah.
And then my other favorite one is that they finish with, well, let me tell you about some of my favorite beers. Blue Moon, after Badger bad-mouthing mass-produced beers.
Right. And Blue Moon's not too far off from this type of a beer.
It's a wheat.
Yeah.
I mean,
still a light beer though, nothing.
So who knows? But on the other side of the spectrum, a lot of fans of it too. One says a beautiful IPA finish, great IPA overall. This might be my favorite beer yet.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. I would put it as I think 4.09 for a rating, right around. They're giving it 91 out of 100. I don't know if I'd go that high, but it's definitely really good. Smooth tasting.
Yeah.
I like it. I would imagine you really like it.
I do.
I could be wrong, though.
I'm enjoying it, yeah. This other guy says this IPA is absolutely outstanding. You don't even notice the high alcohol content, to your point.
Amen.
So, and then here's my favorite. So, if you go to your local gas station, it's usually only a little over $2 per can. What? You buy your beer
at the local gas station.
Local gas station?
I didn't know they sold craft beers at the local gas station. Maybe they do.
I guess. Hey.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty good. I mean, you know what though? It's to me, it's like a normal tasting beer. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
It's just a good beer.
Agree.
Can't say anything bad. All right, we'll review a little bit later with the beers, unless you got anything else you want to mention about it.
No. Ready to roll.
Let's get into the shot of Business Central this week then. So, it's December. We've had a a bunch of updates and rollouts in the past and whatnot. I think last month there was a major update is what we called it. This month they have
a major minor update.
Yeah, major minor update, right, yeah. Ken coined that phrase. This month there is a minor update 17.2 for Microsoft Dynamics Business Central.
Can we call this one a minor?
I would call this a minor, yes. This is definitely a minor update. Not too much. Just basically increasing load time, speed time, stuff like that. Did you notice anything worthwhile in the update notes?
Not for a typical end user. No, it's a lot of some behind the scenes stuff, some application insights and telemetry updates that they're doing. So on some of the features and functionality, especially regarding data storage and background processes and things like that. So
I would have to say, out of all the updates that we've actually covered, this month is probably one of the ones that has the least amount, huh?
Yeah.
Definitely a minor.
Although last month's update, I think they were due for a nice, easy, smooth, quick, little easy update.
Right.
I mean, last month was huge.
Complete opposite of the spectrum.
Yeah.
There is another update though, which is the mobile update, which Ken found. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of in the 17.2 updates. There's a section, if you were to go in and look at the details of the 17.2 update. It's just a note. It says there's a small update for the Business Central mobile app. And it just has to do with some added languages and some fixes that they've done to the app. But I think it's a good point for us to just remind people that the app for Business Central, it does work across multiple versions. Mm-hmm. So when people use the app, and you may forget that you do need to update your app occasionally. And if you're using, like I have an iPhone, so on my iPhone, if I go into apps and go into updates, I actually see right now that I need to apply. I have one new update for Business Central. Yeah. And it says this, it was on December 17th, I think, is when it published it to my phone. Yeah. So I haven't applied that app. And I don't know how many people regularly go into their phone or their tablet and apply all the updates to all the apps that are out there.
Probably not too many. There is a setting though that I know I have it turned on where you can do automatic updates. Mm-hmm. So where as soon as the update comes out, it automatically updates. Yeah. The app. So
it seems like I usually wait till I see that little number that shows on my apps icon hits like 30, and then I go and I hit update all.
You want to make sure everything's working before you. You don't want to be the person who gets out there and does it the first time and it crashes on you.
Yeah, but I think if you're not doing those updates, just be aware. Over time you may encounter an issue, and simple solution is just go grab the most current version of the app.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that exactly over time you're somewhere along the line you're definitely going to encounter an issue if you don't update your apps.
Yep. So that's our public service announcement.
It's probably a good way to close out this section too. I've got nothing else for Business Central updates. Do you?
Yep, that's it. That's it for this month. I think we're seeing the only other kind of note, not really an update, but just kind of maybe more of a progress report, is several months ago Microsoft released a plan where if you're running on premise and you're on the annual enhancement plan, there's a new program where you can move to a monthly instead of an annual payment. Yeah. You can kind of move to the Business Central cloud pricing and pay monthly. Yeah. And we have had some good traction recently on that. Yeah. With a lot of our clients are taking advantage of that, which is basically instead of paying once a year the full amount, you just effectively you're purchasing a cloud subscription, and you're paying for that cloud subscription for 12 months.
Right. So also of noteworthy is you're getting discounted Business Central users as well. So you can in turn actually go and have Business Central while you're still running Nav on premise and actually try it out if you wanted to.
Right.
So I think I believe it's $40 for one premium user.
Yeah,
is what
it's
the
a
discount is.
significant
I
discount.
think it's 28. Don't hold me to it. I think it's 28 for the essentials user. So you're getting more users for your dollar too. So if you're planning on switching to the cloud,
Right.
now's the time to get in. No doubt about it.
Right. And even if you're not, there's a promotional period after, it's up to a 3-year plan, and then at the end you can revert back to the original plan if you don't, right?
Right.
Or I'm sure who knows what's going to happen in 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there's value in the plan,
Right.
additional discount.
Yeah.
If you move to it, you can play around with Business Central, but you still have your current benefits on your current version.
Right.
It's basically just like you have the opportunity to pay monthly instead of annually,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and me personally, I see no downside to taking advantage of it. I think everybody should take advantage of it.
Right. And I hope maybe the state governments aren't listening to us right now. But the other thing that's interesting is within our state, an annual enhancement plan, because it's an agreement that entitles the customer to updates and improvements and new releases. That is taxable.
Mm-hmm.
Sales tax is applied to the annual enhancement plan. And in most states, that is the case, right?
Right.
However, the new monthly plan, you're formally, officially paying for a cloud subscription license.
Yep.
Which in our state is not taxable.
Yeah.
So
more for your dollar.
8% or 9% or whatever your sales tax rate is, it may not be the reason that you move to Business Central from on premise, but that 8 or 10% or whatever your sales tax rate is, that could be the little push
for
that you
some
need.
customers, that's a lot.
Yeah, when you combine that with effectively free financing,
yeah,
to pay that over 12 months instead of one big lump sum at the beginning of the year,
yeah,
that financially might just justify that
right.
switch for you.
Plus, you're getting like we said earlier, double or triple the amount of users,
right?
For one, so
yeah.
It's definitely worth it.
All right.
You want to take us into the next segment?
Sure, let's do it. So we're I'm trying.
He's not used to being the switcher.
Well, I don't want to be sacrilegious, I think is the term here. But I came up with what I call the 10 commandments of financial setups in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And so I apologize. I hope I'm not offending anyone. We're just trying to have a little fun here.
Yeah.
But these are tenets that we and best practices that we try to implement here. And right.
So if it may offend you, now's the time to turn the podcast off before we begin the next segment. So you won't be offended though. So we definitely say stick around. So. Back on this heaven-sent day with the 10 commandments of financial setups in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So the first one is, thou shalt use totaling accounts.
Thou shalt. That is correct. Do you like the use of the King James font and,
I like it, yeah.
And styling? And,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
We'll let our listeners see it on the show notes. Ken really did a good job.
So what does that mean? Thou shalt use totaling accounts. Well, in the chart of accounts in Business Central, you have the ability to create what we call totaling accounts. And those are kind of like headers and footers within a section. So for example, you could create a totaling account, have a begin total called current assets. Mm-hmm. And then you create all your individual posting accounts within there, like cash, accounts receivable, and everything. And then you have an end total called total current assets. And there's functionality to bold those and sum up all the accounts between that gap, right? That's in that range. And so what we're saying is you should use those, mm-hmm. right? Some people are hesitant to use those because in their old system they didn't have those. Mm. And they want to use their current chart of accounts. And let's just stick with that.
Yeah.
Well, if you do, you're not really taking advantage of the full features and capabilities of Business
Right.
Central.
Don't always be afraid of change. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Number 2, thou shalt use dimensions for segmented financial reporting. This is a big one. I'm surprised you put it at number 2.
Yes. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. The order. That's a good point. Is this? I don't know if this is a
the Ten
a
Commandments
ranked
aren't in
list.
order. Yeah.
No, it's any order. I think Well, anyways. So, yeah, use dimensions for segmenting your financial reporting. So let's say you have different departments within your organization, right? Those should be dimensions. Or you have territories or customer classes or product groups. Those are all examples of dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
What we see some people trying to do is incorporate those segments into the chart of accounts themselves. So for example, within like telephone expense is a GL account. But sometimes we'll see people have one GL account that says telephone expense admin. Another account, telephone expense sales and marketing. Another one, telephone expense production.
IT, whatever,
Yeah. What you're doing there is you're making your chart of accounts too long, and you're not taking advantage of the features again and functionality. Where if you want to add a new department in the future, you don't want to have to add 40 new GL accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then customize how your financials will build. Use dimensions for that purpose.
Have you seen Business Central customers not use dimensions?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So on occasion, someone will say, well, this is really our only, quote, dimension. It's like breaking down sales by product types or something.
Gotcha.
And you could make an argument why that could be fine to stay away from dimensions for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we always say, you want your chart, when you design and build your chart of accounts, it should be static. You should not be adding new accounts throughout the year or on an ongoing basis. That chart of accounts should be well thought out once, created, and then never change.
Gotcha.
And then you use dimensions when you come up with a new product type, customer class,
Right.
department.
Kind of segment. Yep.
Right? And
Gotcha.
it's a much better way to do it.
All right. Number 3, thou shalt only use dimensions for financial reporting purposes.
This is the opposite of the last one. This says, don't overuse dimensions. The intent and purpose of dimensions is to provide segmented financial reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So, meaning an income statement, right? A financial view of your data. You don't want to use dimensions for things like that could otherwise be handled by an item category code, right? Is this computer supplies? Is this cycling
Gotcha.
gear or furniture? Right, to use the Business Central
Right.
Cronus database. Those. If you don't need to segment your financial data using those, don't use dimensions. Use an item category code or item attributes or an item inventory posting group.
Mm-hmm.
There are other ways to classify your customers and items and other things through other than dimensions. So try to only use dimensions for those things where you have a financial GL focus.
Okay. That makes sense. Number 4, thou shalt use GL account subcategories.
Right. So this is a relatively new feature in the world of Business Central, where they created what they call GL account categories and subcategories. The categories are hard-coded. Those are fixed.
Okay.
Those are things like assets, liabilities, equity, sales, cost of goods, and expenses. Right. You can't change those. Those are like accounting principles.
Okay.
Right. However, you can build your own subcategories. So within assets, you may have one subcategory called cash and equivalents, another subcategory called accounts receivables, another one called fixed assets, and so on.
Okay.
And a lot of people aren't using those. We're seeing a lot of people, they're not taking the time to build the subcategories and assign the subcategories to their accounts.
to say, is it because this is just a feature that is specific to Business Central, or do you know if this is?
Well, the
prevalent in
reason it's
other-
not used is because is I think people don't want to have to go through all their accounts and assign them to one of these codes, right?
Okay.
Because that you have to actually go in and do it.
Yeah,
right?
it takes time. Yeah,
Like it doesn't miraculously just
pop
snap
up
your
for you.
finger
Yeah.
and right. So there's that, but also maybe they don't understand the benefit. And the benefit is that once you have all of your accounts assigned to these subcategories that are well thought out, you actually can go into the account categories page and auto generate all of your account schedules,
Oh.
financial statements, using
Great.
those.
Yeah.
So it auto builds an income statement, a balance sheet, cash flows, statement of cash flows, and something else, retained
Beautiful.
earnings statement, I think. So, you know, you should use those.
Yeah, put in a little bit of work to get a lot of benefit in the end.
Right.
All right. Number 5. Thou shalt honor the direct posting field.
Right. So on every GL account record, there's a little checkbox field called direct posting. This flag is checked or turned on by default. And what that means is when you create a posting account, it means that a user could go in, if this box is checked, direct posting, they could do a journal entry to this account, they could enter a purchase invoice and post it directly, like computer supplies, office expenses, right? However, a lot of GL accounts, are used in what we call posting groups. And like accounts receivable, accounts payable, inventory, those accounts are set up in what we call posting groups.
Mm-hmm.
You should turn off direct posting for any account that is used in a posting group. What that does is that ensures that the only time that account gets hit is when it's used through those posting groups. And it means we can reconcile the system and keep it reconciled at all times.
Nice, very nice. Number 6, going back to posting groups again. Thou shalt minimize posting groups.
Right. So, thou shalt minimize posting groups. Again, this is kind of like thou shalt only use dimensions for financial reporting purposes. We're saying don't overuse them. So, someone says, well, hey, we've got this thing called customer posting groups. It allows us to break apart our customers into different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could use posting groups to classify your customers and say, these are enterprise customers, these are government customers, these are small business customers.
Right.
You could do that. What we're saying is don't overuse those for that purposes, because the primary purpose of posting groups is to drive activity to the general ledger. And you don't want to overbuild that to where it's so many records and so complex that people can't look at those posting groups and understand why certain activities hit in certain accounts. So
Gotcha.
try to minimize it to say, well, we've only really got 4 different product GL accounts, so let's have 4 posting groups then, right?
Gotcha.
Don't use those for other
Other
purposes.
things. Number 7, thou shalt not combine bank accounts into a single GL account.
Yep. So what this means, this gets into when you set up your bank accounts. So let's say you have an account at First National Bank,
Okay.
and then you have an account at Chase Bank. You would want to be able to reconcile both of those accounts in Business Central. Well, in order to use the bank rec functionality cleanly, where it's in sync with your general ledger, you want to have a one-to-one relationship. Each bank account links directly to one GL account.
1-to-1.
You don't want to have it set up where you have multiple bank accounts that point to one GL account. You will have difficulty reconciling that at the end of the month. So for each bank account that you want to be able to reconcile, have a separate GL account for that.
1-to-1 relationship. Got it.
Yep.
Number 8, thou shalt only use a GL account for a single purpose in posting groups.
Right. So in order to be able to cleanly reconcile the system, you really should only use a GL account for one purpose. Here let me give you an example. So in Business Central, we have what's called an inventory account and an inventory interim account. Right? Those are two different setup fields in your inventory posting setup.
Okay.
Could we just use one GL account as both the inventory account and the inventory interim account? Yes.
Okay.
You could. And we do have customers that do that.
I feel a butt coming.
Because we're all, no one's perfect.
Right.
Right. However, if those balances get out of sync, it becomes very difficult to troubleshoot why if you have that same account used as for both purposes. Whereas if you were to have one GL account called inventory and another account called inventory interim and use those separately, we can much more easily reconcile those and find out which one's off and why.
Gotcha. Number 9, thou shalt only have one WIP account or WIP account, whatever you prefer to say.
Yep, work in process.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're a manufacturer or do an assembly, when you go in to set up your inventory posting groups, let's say you have a raw material and a finished good. Those are two different inventory groups that you have. It appears when you're setting that up as if you could assign one WIP account to your raw material items and a separate WIP item for your finished goods.
Okay.
Right? It would allow you to set up two different WIP accounts.
Okay.
However, when you're building a production order and processing a production order, it's gonna
Don't do it.
It's gonna consume, when you consume items, raw material items, it's gonna use that WIP account. And when you post output, it's gonna use the finished goods WIP account, which means they will never clear.
Yeah.
So effectively, you can really only use one WIP account that will then clear and reconcile against the general ledger.
That makes sense. All right, number 10 looks like a biggie to me. So, thou shalt not delete the GL accounts.
Right.
Is this common?
It is. Unfortunately, people attempt to. So over years and years, right? Again, then this kind of goes back to which one? Where we don't want to. We want to use dimensions, right? We want to have a static chart of accounts. So the same way I said, you don't want to be adding accounts throughout the year. You also shouldn't ever need to delete an account, right? But every once in a while, someone goes, I want to delete that account. That's old garbage. It's for legacy account. We're not using it anymore. I don't want to see it. Okay, well, that's fine. Go ahead and block it.
Yeah,
right?
Don't delete it.
Block it. Keep it in there. And just know that no one's going to be using it anymore. Yeah. Even change the description and say blocked or inactive or not used. But keep it in there. And the reason is because if you've been running financial statements and account schedules and reports and you want to be able to compare back to previous periods, if you remove that GL account, there's nothing that's going to pull those entries then into your financial statements.
Right.
So you
don't do it.
Right? Or you run a trial balance report for 3 years ago where there was activity in that GL account. You're gonna have problems.
So if you had to put a number on it, what would you say? Don't even consider it unless it's been 10 years?
Right. I would say if you never plan on looking at a financial statement or a report that includes activity from that account, then you can delete it.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, you should just block it. And also there are some limitations that prevent you from deleting accounts. So if you have activity in an account in an open accounting year, so like in your current accounting year, it will not let you delete it. But once you've run the close year process and you've rolled retained earnings into the next year,
then you can.
Then it would allow you. Now, in the newest versions, this is the last little tidbit, in the newest versions of Business Central, there's a field on the General Ledger Setup page that actually says, allow deletion of GL accounts before this date.
Oh, really?
and you put a date in there. If you don't have a date in there, it won't let you delete the account because it says you must have a date in this general ledger setup field.
Gotcha.
But once you
It's
put
like
a
a safety
date,
kind of, yeah.
Right.
Makes
so,
sense.
So they put that in there, but you could just go in there and say, well,
Change the date.
January of 2021.
Right.
And now it would let you go delete those accounts.
Everything.
But we're saying don't do that. That's just going to cause you problems. You can also renumber that GL account to put an X in front of it or a Z or something,
To let
which
you
would
know
drop
that.
it down to the bottom
Gotcha.
to remove it. But we say just block it.
Yeah.
And then you can always run reports and filter, say only include active accounts in this
Yeah.
report.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you can block it or drop it down or whatever, so it doesn't.
Yeah,
interfere
there's a
with
lot
your-
of options for that. So these are our which we nicely fit into the 10 commandments of financial setups.
Listen, from God's mouth to Ken's hand, he drew these down here, and it looks really good. I mean, it's old scripture right here. I mean, it's good. We're gonna post a picture of this in the show notes. It looks good.
Yeah,
So-
no, I'm not gonna. I won't let you. I won't. The Moses of Business Central.
Right,
Please.
there you go.
No.
You don't want that nickname, huh?
I think there may actually already be a Moses of Business Central. I don't know.
Oh, that's great. All right, so there you have it, the 10 Commandments of Financial Setups in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. Next up, we've got our year in review. So,
looking forward to this.
yeah, good times. See everybody then. Back for the year in review segment, and it's been a crazy year, to say the least, with the coronavirus pandemic and whatnot. But even so, our statistics have been pretty good for the Shot at Business Central and Beer podcast. We have listeners in 58 different countries, which kind of shocked me.
There's 58 countries?
Yeah, 59 total now. So we're almost in every country now.
Wow.
And on Spotify, in particular, hours listened are up 158%. Followers are up 117%. We grew by 400% in Sweden, 250% in Germany, and 162% in the United States. A lot of people might say that it's not a big deal. More people are home listening to podcasts, hours listened up 158%. But our listens actually coincide with the way the economy basically goes. So in April, May, our listens were down as more people were not working. So for us to actually grow that much for this year, I'd say it's pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I think when we set out, to do this podcast, we try to make it, if we know people are busy. You have a lot of time and a lot of different things that you need to be doing. And I think our hope is that, once a month you can tune in and get kind of caught up to date on what's happened with Business Central, what's new, what's going on, what do I need to be aware of, and,
Right.
and maybe have a little fun. So it's glad to see the numbers are trending upwards, and I think Business Central in general, it is as a whole is trending upward.
Yeah.
It's been a great year, I think.
Right. And, we're trying to help the listener by going out and doing kind of the legwork for you by finding all the information, the news or whatever, and kind of consolidating it into one podcast to save you a little bit of time. So do you think that the numbers are up, Ken, because of our great Business Central reporting or because of our beer choices?
Well, I'm gonna say because of our Business Central reporting, I guess, if I have to pick one of those two. Our beer, I feel like we're after reading through all these beer reviews that we read through, it really is humbling to see like how little we know about beer.
Yes. Especially myself. Although I have to say, over the past year or two, my taste palette for beer has definitely expanded, and I enjoy it a lot more. Truth be told, I only drink beer really once a month during the podcast.
There you go.
So not too much.
Yeah.
But over the past year, did you have a favorite beer, maybe? Anything stand out to you, or
yes,
one or two, maybe?
So I was looking through the list of all the different beers we've had this year, and it's a huge variety. If you were to line them all up next to each other and drink them all. I mean, we really did. If you were looking for like a sampling of a wide varieties, we definitely hit that. Looking at the list, I think in terms of my favorite, if I have to pick one here, I think I would go with what we drank in July, which is the Short Fuse B33.
It's pretty good.
So
definitely a good beer.
It was strong. I think that was like the word I used to describe that, right? It was strong flavor, strong alcohol, strong, right? How about yourself?
So for me, we're going to take away the obvious Corona that I had during the quarantine episode, because I tend to love Corona. But two, actually. So the O'Fallon Weech, I really liked. Kind of shocked me a little bit. And then one that I don't have on this list that we had last month was a coffee-infused beer.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but I really liked that one. I thought that was a great pick.
Fuel Cafe.
Fuel Cafe, yes.
Yeah.
But so those are my two. Thought they were really good. Kind of a big contrast. O'Fallon Weech was a lighter beer to me. Had the peach flavoring and whatnot.
Yeah.
The beer from last month,
what was your
Fuel
least
Cafe.
favorite beer that we drank this year?
I think we started off the year pretty bad with the Trader Joe's Provincial Golden Ale.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad. At least it wasn't a sign of things to come.
I think my favorite, after we did that, I often have, every once in a while people come up to me and go, oh, yeah, how's your podcast? What beer did you have? And I'll say, oh, we drank a Trader Joe's Golden Ale. What do what their comment back was, oh, really? I didn't know Trader Joe's makes beer.
Yeah, neither did we. So
neither did we, and I don't think they do.
Yeah, they're just putting it out there real for somebody to buy it. It's nothing. I mean, it wasn't that great. Actually, disappointing because I like a lot of the stuff that Trader Joe's does, but their beer, not good. Was that your least favorite too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
although a close second. For me would be the we did a Distill, although it's not Distill's fault. We had a sour beer.
Yeah.
And the sour.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go for one of those maybe, and if I'm in a certain mood.
Right.
But I've had a few sours recently, and.
But you know what you're getting, right?
Correct.
You know what you're getting.
Right.
The Trader Joe's, no idea. It's completely opposite of what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
The sour one, I understand it's sour and that's kind of its thing.
Yeah.
But so, looking back on segments, if I had to pick one of our more favorite segments, I'm gonna have to go with the Microsoft Teams integration, just because I think it's gonna be a huge feature for Business Central going forward. I've become a pretty big fan of Microsoft Teams this year. I really like it. So it's probably one of my favorite segments.
Yeah,
what about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, just to kind of rattle through some of the list of what we talked about this year, I mean, we hit on email logging feature, dimensions, remote capabilities of Business Central, personalizing Business Central, inventory adjust cost, what it is and why you need it, late payment predictions, attachments and links and what's the differences, and then building custom reports. I personally like, to me, building custom reports.
Yeah.
And the reason is because, everyone sets up an ERP system where you're running Dynamics, you have Business Central. The purpose is to be able to use the data, analyze the data, understand the data.
Yeah.
And everyone always, reporting and data analytics
Spot trends, for sure.
are huge. So, making sure that people understand what tools are there to build custom reports, I think is so important. Because if you think you're just going to implement Dynamics or any system, right? And you're just going to survive on what reports are out of the box,
Not going to happen.
not going to happen. No. Every business is unique and has different requirements and different, processes. So you have to know any system. You have to have a good reporting tool to build your own reports and data analytics. So for me, that's why I picked that. So it's very important.
Definitely a good one. I think we should do a special little shout out to the August one, which was the interview with implementation specialist Mark Hike.
Oh, what a guy.
It was a good time. Yeah, what a guy.
Brought the beer and everything.
Yep, just the one fault of being a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Nobody's perfect.
I don't know. I look in the mirror, I'm pretty happy every day. All right, let's move on into apps. Anything stand out to you from the list of apps? If I had to pick one, I would probably say the Clever Global Search at first was pretty good when we tried it out. I think, though, there was a lot of apps, looking back, that didn't work too much.
Yeah. I mean, so I like I liked 5 steps to take before purchasing an app. Right? Because to your point, you don't just want to go out there and buy any app because you don't know if it works, if it's going to meet your needs.
Yeah.
The
company's credible.
How can you go about doing research? That was back in January, at the end of January or February. We did that one. So I like that because I thought it was most of the times we're focusing on a specific app, talking about a specific feature or functionality. But that one was, I think, universal, right? It's like, hey, if you're looking for an app, these are some of the things you should be thinking about.
Right. So, 2020 was a good year. We had a bunch of questions from some listeners, things like that. I would say, all in all, it was a different year, but definitely on the up and up.
Yeah.
And so going into 2021, I know that we're looking to make a couple changes just to kind of enhance the podcast or whatnot. And
the podcast is not perfect. Is
no,
it?
Of course not.
Right? So even if it was, we'd still strive for continuous improvement. Right? So we kind of got together and we kind of set some goals and objectives for 2021. So what can we look forward to in the next 12 months? So I think we kind of put it into kind of like 4 categories. The first thing I think I'm most excited about is the new bonus podcasts.
Yes.
So what are the new bonus podcasts?
So the bonus podcast will be something where, so right now we're doing one podcast per month, but sometimes information comes out in the middle of the month, right? So why should we wait to put it in the podcast at the end of the month? We're still going to include it in the major podcast at the end of the month, but we're also going to do maybe a 10-minute live quick podcast in the middle of the month to bring you the information and the new news as quickly as possible. So I think that's going to be pretty good. And
more podcasts, more fun.
More podcasts, yeah. We're even going to try to do a couple live ones. So if we screw up, you'll hear it.
Hey.
What else we got on that list?
The second thing we're going to do is, we always try to incorporate guests and bring more people into the fold and get their perspective and their knowledge and experience. We're going to try to continue to do that and different sources also. So we're looking to bring on someone from Microsoft to join us in the first quarter, hopefully. We also want to bring in additional users and some consultants that can talk about their hands-on experience in using and implementing Business Central.
Right. So that'll be really good. Looking forward to hearing different opinions, different voices. It's always good to bring different people on. We're kind of biased with certain things. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, but we love Business Central. But it's always good to hear somebody who might not like it as much as we do and what they don't like about it. That way we can talk about it, figure out workarounds and things like that. So
maybe we'll debate do some debates.
Yeah, exactly.
And then kind of maybe a not as significant, but when we review apps. So we're going to still continue to look at apps that are out there, try to focus on the newer apps that are coming out. And we're going to come up with a more formal structure for how we evaluate and how we review the apps so that we can make sure that we have kind of a standardized checklist, if you will, for how we evaluate those. Right.
Definitely, once again, makes it easier for you, the listener. You'll know exactly what you're getting when you listen to the app segment. Probably off the top of my head, things like, when was the app, created, when did it start, what is it for? Just a basic series of checklist questions that we want done from.
Make sure that we consistently hit on the facts and information people are looking for.
Right. And that's going to go for the interview of people from the apps, and even if we're not interviewing somebody, when we're reviewing the app, it's going to be the same thing.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Nice.
And then the last thing is the biggest thing or the smallest thing, depending on your perspective, is the beers that we drink.
Oh, yeah.
So our plan is to, over the course of the podcast, since we started, Michael and I go out and we select the beers. Mm-hmm. And it's possible that our natural subconscious biases play into the beers that we select. So we're going to change it up in 2021. We're going to be having a beer club type group send us beers each month. Right. And we're going to drink what we get.
Yep. Going to be completely honest. If we like it, we do. If we don't, we don't. And I also think in 2021, we kind of discussed it too, we're going to probably shy away a little bit from talking so much about the brewery and the background of the actual brewery of the beer. We're going to focus more on the actual beer, the tasting of it, and the alcohol content and stuff like that. So it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to drinking different beers from around the country.
Yep. So we've got more podcasts, more guests, more unique beers from all over the U.S. Instead of, we're kind of limited to our, the craft beers that we can get here in our local area. So we're kind of limited there. Now we're going to get a wide sampling from all regions.
Right.
That we can drink.
If we don't sound like typical Americans, more, I don't know who does. So
there you go.
All right. That's it. That's our last podcast of the year. Say Happy New Year to everybody else. Happy New Year to you, Ken,
Happy New Year to you, Michael. Happy New Year to you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Yep.